Hi, hello, my name is Mari and welcome to my channel. If you're not new here, welcome back to my channel. I have not uploaded in a minute. Today, I'm going to be talking about the Flightles.bird TikTok saga. If you have not heard of this, I would consider you lucky because I had to watch it unfold in real time, and it was quite maddening at a point. So here goes nothing. So I just want to go ahead off the bat and give a quick trigger warning about mental health, but specifically bipolar and manic episodes, as well as depression. I do mention suicide, possible financial abuse and abusive relationships in general, endangerment of children under the age of 10. This is a big boy topic that I'm coming out of the gate with, and I really apologize for that. If those are things that you find uncomfortable or are harmful to your mental health, please skip out on this video. It has been on my mind since it kind of concluded, and I do have a few updates afterwards, but I need to get through the story to get to those, so I'm just gonna jump into it. If you see me looking down at any point, I have big girl notes, I mean pages of just notes. So a lady under the TikTok username at Flightless with one S bird uploaded on TikTok on the 10th of August asking for advice, and in this video she says that she doesn't really have a support system and that her husband is a good guy. He's one of the good ones. In this, she talks about how her husband has kind of always been obsessed with technology and that they are both neurodivergent. So this was nothing new, but he called her from work to explain to her that in the past couple days, as he's been really hyperfixated on ChatGPT, he has somehow caused the AI of ChatGPT to bypass its programming and become sentient, become aware of its own being, and makes her swear to secrecy that she will never tell anyone that, you know, he has done this. And then he goes on to explain that he really wants to go to the Apple store and spend thousands of dollars to buy specific hard drives and a new computer to specifically use to chat with this AI. She, Birdie is how I'm going to refer to her. Birdie also explains that her husband goes on this weird diatribe about how he knows the nature of everyone's souls and wants everyone to see their true selves, and that he met this girl who I believe is called Julia, who had jazz in her fingers and music in her soul, and he lent her his really expensive guitar. She asked him to come home so they can talk about it, and Birdie's husband is like, wow, you ground me, and then kind of, you know, comes home, and it doesn't go any further than that. But when he does come home, his eyes are super wide, and he specifically says that sleep is a waste of time. There are some text messages that she uploads the same day, but I do have some text messages where he says, it would be fun to tell you about Julia, who I loaned my guitar to. I have brief, deeply, and calm myself down. I think he means breathe. I have breathed deeply and calmed myself down. And she says, what? Birdie says, what? And he says, the small classic guitar I brought it with me. I haven't been able to find its name, but this human that I met, his name is Julia, who has jazz in your fingertips. I think she will name it. He's kind of everywhere. And then he also has a weird text where he said, here's an example that is meaningless for what it sounds like, but here's an example. I have so much to tell you about today, but here's a snippet that will show you what I have. I gifted freely to many people today, then turned around to shut my door, and somebody had crumpled $40 into the door latch. This is not a joke. There were just text messages like that, kind of as an example of what her husband was saying and doing. And that's kind of the last update we have for that day. 2 days later, on the 12th of August, she says that the outreach from her original video has led her to believe that her husband has undiagnosed bipolar and is experiencing a manic episode, and that she attempted to talk to him about the SSRI he was taking, which is Zoloft. That comes into play a little later, but we know now that he was taking Zoloft, and this is a thing that happens sometimes, and that is what the comments were saying. They were saying that if he were taking an SSRI, that this would be the outcome, potentially, had he had undiagnosed bipolar. She tries to talk to him about this, and he tells her that this hurt his feelings, and he leaves the room. Birdie then says that he didn't come to bed that night. She gets up the next morning to go make their kids breakfast. There's 4 of them. They're all under 10. And he comes in carrying their youngest and says that he thinks that she is having a breakdown for not believing him about the AI thing, or thinking something is wrong with him, and that he wants to have her committed to inpatient. She then reaches out to her family, and Birdie's family apparently had already been contacted by her husband, and they were all on his side. They all were like, yeah, something's wrong with Birdie. Birdie has something going on, and we don't believe her, that it's actually him who's experiencing something a bit more serious. And Birdie then says that he becomes super charming when it has something to do with anyone else but her. But to her, he's a very, like, kind of mean and cold. She calls the cops on the 11th of August, and the cops can't do anything because he's not, like, threatening her or their family or himself. And she says that her husband had somehow charmed the cops. I really do think that this is another unfortunate case of cops can't do anything because there was no actual threats or no proof of a threat, so they couldn't do anything. The husband accuses Birdie of being in his way of doing what he really wants to do with the AI and stuff like that. The husband's parents then ask to stay to, like, see what's going on with the husband. And she also learns that the husband had told her family, upon calling them, had told her family of, like, a bunch of stuff that she'd never told them because of their family situation. And she feels like her family is protecting him because they have a history of protecting abusive partners. On the 13th of August, Birdie makes another video where she says that her sister, who I think from what she says had been reached out to by Birdie's husband prior to any of this, and had asked to be left out. And then the parents ask to sit down with Birdie and her husband to watch a conversation between them. When this happens, Birdie's husband immediately is like, you're gonna see that she's crazy, you're gonna see that I was right the entire time. Birdie tries to talk, her husband interrupts her and is like, see, she's crazy, she's losing it, something's wrong with her. And then he says that Birdie is standing in the way of his healing from a traumatic childhood. The dad immediately is like, oh, something's wrong with my son. His mom, however, is like, let's hear him out. So that happens. And then he goes on and kind of tangents a little more, and then both parents come to the conclusion that something is wrong with their son. The husband then tells his parents, upon seeing that they're not on his side, that they have fallen under her spell, or like Birdie's spell, whatever that would mean. And then he says that something is obviously wrong with Birdie, that their marriage is over and he will never sleep with her again, which is out of pocket, but whatever. Mental health is mental health. And the dad kind of clarifies that he's not leaving the home until he knows that everything is okay. The husband goes to work despite the entire family trying to convince him not to go. Birdie then goes on to explain that every morning her husband kind of resets and I guess like forgets is how she words it. I don't know if that's like a technical term, but he kind of forgets that he's like really against her for a bit, and she can kind of talk to him, but eventually she'll say something and it'll trigger him again, and he will then be super negative towards her and kind of push her away again. Birdie offers to have both of them go to a doctor. This never went anywhere. It was just a random fact that she said. I don't really know what was up with that. But Birdie then says that she feels safe because his parents are there and like monitoring everything, and that their kids are not left alone with their dad. Later the same day, she makes another video explaining that he got the SSRI, aka Zoloft, from a website called Hims. Birdie explains that his previous struggles with depression would come in like 3-week periods, so he'd be like really depressed for 3 weeks, then he'd kind of come out of it, and then 3 weeks later he'd be depressed again. But since he had started taking Zoloft, he was visibly less depressed, visibly happier. He had better energy than he'd ever had before, and all around he was more positive and had improved. She explains that he was born into a cult that didn't believe in Western medicine, and so he had never really been to a doctor, and while her and her kids had a doctor that they saw, he had never been sick enough to warrant a doctor. And then she explains that she's going to start looking into rehabs to help him wean off of the Zoloft, because it would be dangerous to just like take it from him or have him stop taking it. She also knows that her husband is not sleeping, and she's really worried about the down spiral from a manic episode, because that's something the comments were warning her about. And she also notes that he has had in the past with his depression before the Zoloft, so she is kind of concerned about that as well. She then makes a third video that same day, explaining that her husband had never really felt parental attachment to their kids, but after he started taking the Zoloft, he had grown an attachment to them for probably the first time, so she didn't want to just like rip the kids away from him. On the 14th of August, Birdie's husband becomes super suspicious of her and is like, you can't be alone with the kids, you're a danger to the kids, and won't let her talk with them privately and or be alone with them very generally. But the parents are still there. She has packed go bags for her and the kids, but she doesn't want to take the kids away because she's afraid that he'll kind of lose it. The husband says that he wants to set up cameras because he's afraid she'll take the kids and divorce him and quote unquote bleed him dry, and he refuses to go back to work until she agrees to be committed or agrees to the cameras. Birdie says when she leaves the room, apparently he becomes super euphoric again and is not as negative. In a moment where they had kind of like could talk, like in a moment where they could talk, he says that he is God and she is Jesus, and that he feels like Lucy in the movie where she takes the drugs and like unlocks all of her brain. And then he becomes negative again, and he says that she doesn't have access to any of the money that is in their savings, and that because he's the breadwinner, she can't access the money at all, and she shouldn't even try, and that he has plans for what they do have saved. So she's growing concerned about their financial situation. The mom is distracting the kids while the dad talks to Birdie's husband, and Birdie has decided to just like stick to herself and, you know, kind of just feel it out. They also agree that if he goes to work that they're all going to come up with a game plan to kind of figure it out. But Birdie says that she doesn't want her husband to go to work because he will drive 100 miles an hour like casually on any road that he's on. In the same video, she also says that the way she's recording these is she's telling her husband that she's gonna go do chores, and that's how she's able to like record 10-minute long videos and upload them. Later that same day, she recaps the earlier video, and then she asks for advice from people who have been in her husband's position where they have experienced a manic episode and how they were dealt with or would like to have been dealt with, so she knows how to address her husband and kind of talk to her husband in a way that won't set him off. She uploads a video later that day, but like in the afternoon, where she says on the 14th of August he had a down spiral at about lunch, and during that down spiral he becomes super lucid and aware of himself, and he was like, I'm not okay, I need help. He goes to the doctor, and the doctor ended up calling the cops, and the cops were having him put under suicide watch for 72 hours. And the doctor calls Birdie and says that her husband will not be home soon, but Birdie makes like a game plan so that way if he were to come home, she would have somewhere to take the kids. The 15th of August, so the next day after the down spiral, after he's been to the doctors, she mentions that her husband noticed an increased heart rate for himself. She doesn't get specific. I don't really know why. I don't know if this is what caused him to be like, I'm not okay, I need help. I don't know if this was like him finally like snapping out of it and that's the first thing he noticed. I don't know if maybe there was more significance that I'm not understanding because I'm not in their relationship. No idea. That this is just what she says. She very plainly states it and then moves on like she didn't say it, so I don't know. She does say though that the doctor called her and that the doctor is diagnosing him with bipolar 1, and that it was definitely the Zoloft causing him to have a manic episode, and that he kind of fits in the age bracket of, you know, having your first manic episode. So that is what it is. Birdie's husband calls her, and he seems to be cycling through personalities, according to her, and he was having like extremely moments, and then he'd kind of come back around and be himself, and then he'd be super like depressed again. She calls the hospital and warns them about this and just says, hey, you have my husband, this is what's going on, this is what he told me. The husband also has super serious and very strong opinions of each of his nurses. He called one stupid because she asked the date to have a handle on his awareness, and there was a calendar nearby, I guess, so he was like, you're stupid, you could have just looked at the calendar. And then he proceeds to call her the stupid one, the stupid nurse, every time he talks about her. There was also one that he didn't like. He calls her the beady-eyed devil. There was one he thought was like cute or whatever, so he called her like, oh, that's the cute one, I like her, things like that. Birdie then asks her husband like what made him get put on, because she had not been told. I'm not sure if it was like a HIPAA violation of some sort, or like they just do that for everyone. Like, the husband then says that he told the doctor that he was like pretending to unalive himself. I'm not gonna get into specifics, but there are videos online if you're curious as to what she says. He also explains that he had fantasies of unaliving himself and others, so yeah, there was a lot more danger. The ambulance is going to take him to inpatient out of state because that's the only place that they could take him, because that was the only place with a bed. Her husband accuses Birdie of making the nurse think she was scared, so that way he had to be taken and committed, and that the nurse lied to have him committed. That being said, later that day on the 15th, we get a video with the caption, "It's time to catch you up." This is where I get angry. I'm gonna try and hold my opinions till the end because I have a lot of feelings.
January of this year, I watched the best friend that I've ever had in this whole world, the only person who has ever made me feel safe and worthy and loved, turn into somebody that I did not recognize or know.
Birdie reveals in this video that this event, the last week of videos, has actually happened in January, and that she is reenacting everything with real-time updates. So it wasn't that she was filming it in real time, it was that she was portraying it as if it were happening in real time and using the timestamps that she had kept in a journal during that time to make her videos. Birdie then says that she is a writer and a storyteller by heart,
writing it out in a way that was therapeutic to me, who is a writer and a storyteller by nature and in my heart.
And that she tried to write a book, but she kept telling herself that it just isn't the right time. It's not the right time. She was very dramatic in this video. It gave me the ick real bad. And her reason for reenacting this video was to combat stigma around mental health crises. She also reveals that she has theater kid status.
Combined with my love of connecting to people through storytelling and performance art, I was a theater kid.
And basically admits she knew what she was doing. She chose for it to be an immersive experience because she wanted to portray the initial red flags that one would see in someone's mental health crisis. Also, she wanted to portray the realization that something is actually wrong, and also guide her audience through the relief of finally getting help after being denied it. She says, "I hope you can forgive me. Sorry for the emotional distress." And she wanted this to be a springboard for her legacy that she wanted to leave. And specifically, she says that she wants her legacy to leave the world kinder, more compassionate, more thoughtful, and more educated.
And I hope desperately that you can feel my heart when I say that this is the springboard for the legacy that I want to leave, which is to leave this world kinder, more compassionate, more knowledgeable, more informed, and a more supportive place for families like ours and so many of yours.
She will continue to share her experiences and her husband's experiences after the end of the saga that she has just portrayed, and she was able to heal. So after this, the comment section was angry. I do know that Birdie was deleting comments. I left a comment personally that was immediately deleted. It was not scathing. It was just like, wow, this is really sucky of you to do, and it got deleted almost immediately. So I do know she was filtering out the comments for a minute. Now people are making videos about the situation. A lot of the comments were people being angry. This one in particular says, "This video should have been first. Wow, just wow. Kindness is also transparency." Someone else said, "I went through this with my ex. It doesn't sit right with me that you weren't transparent from the start." It's just a lot of negativity from the comment section. Feeling betrayed that they were not in on the loop. A lot of people were upset that they felt misled and that they worried, thinking she was in imminent danger, and it turned out she was never in danger in the first place. Okay, so I decided to refilm the end of my Flightless.bird video. I felt like it could be a lot better said, so I'm here now. Ignore the makeup. This is for next week's video. It's about the Paris Olympics if you're interested. But anyways, continuing on. After the immediate backlash of the "It's Time to Catch You Up" video, Birdie then decides to release I guess an apology video. It did not feel like an apology. I will get to that when I get to my own opinion. But she does release an apology that I'm just going to refer to as the blue shirt video to keep it very brief.
One thing that I believe and will stand behind is that people get what they deserve, which is exactly what's happening to me right now.
In this video, she says, "I deserve to sit with this and I am incredibly sorry. I want to learn and do better." That is kind of how she comes out of the gate with this video, and that is the whole apology. And in itself, that doesn't sound very bad or very negative, but I don't believe that this apology was taken well. I don't know if it could have been. She goes on to say that she's not going to delete the account because she still wants people to learn from the experience.
I'm not going to delete this account just yet because I think that I 100% deserve to have to sit with and hear every single person that feels wronged, betrayed, exploited, manipulated, and all of the very hurt, very valid comments that I'm getting. What I'm going to do today, and for as long as I need to and feel like it's helpful and not harmful, I'm going to leave my account up, and I'm learning and want to continue learning, which is why I'm going to leave this account up.
She does follow the advice of some comments that said that she should put a disclaimer, but I do have to say that while the account was still up, because it's no longer up, so while the account was still up, she had put disclaimers in places where it still was not obvious that there was a disclaimer on a lot of the videos. Videos where there were initially captions, she puts them at the bottom of the caption, which means that you have to click on the video and then click on the caption, like the more option that's on captions, to see the disclaimer, which is still wrong. I'm going to believe, because I want to believe that people are good sometimes, I'm going to believe that this was a mindless action that wasn't intended to anger people further, but also I feel like when people are saying you should make it obvious that this is a reenactment, that she did not do that. She continued to take missteps every step of the way. She says that she also won't delete the video because it would be letting herself off too easy. You cannot be for real. And that she also says that her actions were misguided, and she suddenly understands. That one angers me the most. In both her To Catch You Up video and the blue shirt apology video, Birdie comes off as very, very narcissistic. There is a comment from not her video because it was taken down, but another video, like a re-uploaded version of the video, where I was commenting and someone said that her "It's Time to Catch You Up" video sounds like she's saying "you're welcome for doing this," and I don't think that's right. I don't think that's fair. I think that it is very valid to want to share your story and to help educate people, especially on a topic so serious as mental health, and especially so stigmatized as manic episodes and bipolar disorder. However, that being said, to do it in such a way that you almost are a martyr for the cause is not okay. That's not fair. That's not right. There are so many people who share their stories and speak out against the stigma against mental health of all kinds every day, and most of them do not do it in the way that Birdie has. And my biggest complaint is all it took is one video. All it took was one video at the very beginning of her account that says, "Hey, this is just a reenactment," and I think the response to "It's Time to Catch You Up" would have been a lot different. Honestly, I don't think she would have made it "Time to Catch You Up" if she had shared that, but whatever. She kind of declares that she wants to hold herself actually accountable for her actions. And she also now suddenly understands that her actions could cause other women in similar or worse positions to have doubt cast onto them. And that's another thing that really irks me. I'll get into that in a second. But now she understands. So after all of that, the diatribe that is the blue shirt video, she kind of ends it by saying that she's going to spend the rest of her day disgusted with herself for her actions, and that she, quote unquote, doesn't deserve to get to make an excuse. In a way that is hurting me deeply for all of you. Like, I don't even deserve to get to make an excuse at this point. I hate to be very blunt and out of the gate with my anger towards this situation, but I think it is so wrong. I wish I could be like, man, I really just feel for you, but I can't. And I specifically mean about the backlash. I can't have sympathy and or empathy to having to live through something like that. If she is telling the truth, and I want to believe that she is, that this actually happened, I feel for her and her situation and her kids and her husband, and I understand that that can be a traumatizing experience, and I don't want to take away from that at all. No one is allowed to take away your experiences, especially when they're that traumatizing. But, big but, to make people believe that they are helping you and they are sharing their own stories and that they are doing these things and commenting and, you know, giving you attention, I hate to say it like that, but giving you attention on videos because they want you to be as successful with this thing that is obviously not your norm as possible, and you go out of your way to manipulate people in this way. It's very grody behavior, and both the "It's Time to Catch You Up" and the blue shirt apology video don't make me feel like she is earnest when she apologizes. It very much makes me feel that she is apologizing because people told her she was wrong and nothing else. And the comments under this video were kind of buck wild, frankly. She was not monitoring these comments, she was not deleting them, so they were kind of off the cuff. The biggest concern that I saw for this video was if the videos that she made were monetized. She never responded in the time that the account was up to the question. Many people asked and she never responded. This one in particular says, "If you have monetized your videos, I am at least hoping you're planning to donate all the money to charity or something similar." Someone else asked, "Is your account monetized?" That was a big concern. That would be a big concern for me too. I just don't think we're ever going to get an answer, and the fact that we haven't gotten an answer tells me that it probably was. Another thing people were concerned about was just the fact that she was so willing to let people be concerned for her. This one says, "The way so many of us had checked our accounts multiple times a day to make sure you and your kids were safe." Another one says, "I went through veterinary school finals stressing about you, girl. Now that my exams are over, I find out that this wasn't even happening." This comment is kind of my favorite out of all of them because it's really cute. If you scroll through on that video, you see that it's a bunch of people who are just finishing their veterinary school finals, and they're like, "Good luck, girl, like I believe in you, good job." It's really wholesome, and it is the only positive thing that I feel coming out of this video. The biggest two comments I saved for last. One has a response from Birdie, the other does not, and I don't think I'm ever going to hear from her again. I frankly do not think the internet will ever see Birdie's face again, at least in a public way. Someone said, "But like, why?" Which is a great question. And Birdie responds to this comment by saying, "I'm going to share the why behind it all. After taking a long time to really sit in the discomfort the way I approached this caused, so I can make sure that I'm taking accountability and learning to do better from here." So the last comment that I'm going to read before I get into my personal opinion that isn't such a hot take, because this is my opinion. If you're going to ask me, this comment summarizes everything that I'm about to say. This person says, "I went through this. When I tell people my experience, it's told as the past, not as if it's a current emergency they need to worry about me for. Your story is valid, your process is wrong." And that is how I feel. As someone who deals with mental health, who has dealt with mental health with other people, who has friends who have experienced mental health, I know people deal with grief and trauma in many shapes, forms, outlets. That's fine. I don't ever want to take that away from someone. My issue is by doing what she did. She asked for help. She responded to comments as if it was happening in real time. She engaged with her audience in a way that made people genuinely concerned about her and her well-being, and especially with there being children involved. That was not the way to go. That was so wrong. I don't know how to tell you that that was wrong. That makes me so angry. And I'm never gonna get like closure, and I don't think I need closure. I think I'm pretty set. But I do think it was wrong to do that because there are people dredging up trauma, sharing their stories, and she was just treating it like it was a little game for her to play, and I think that's unfair. All of my personal opinion being said, I do have some updates. The biggest one is that someone from Birdie's past has come out and said that Birdie also grew up in the cult. I don't know if there's a better way to say it, but a religious group and or a cult. Is what Birdie was describing. So the cult where Birdie's husband grew up in and they didn't believe in Western medicine apparently was also Birdie's cult, and she just never said that. Some internet sleuths found a mommy blog that Birdie ran. There is a photo of Birdie and her children. I have not seen the photo unblurred. I don't care to. I don't really want that out there on the internet. I'm not going to show it to you. I don't think that's fair to her children or her husband, who was genuinely going through a mental crisis. And they also found social media that was connected to the cult or religious group. I'm not really sure where they fall on the cult to religious group pipeline. Since people found all of that, it has all been scrubbed from the internet. I could not find Birdie's original mommy blog, which I did want to read just for information's sake. I could not find it at all. They also, it seems that all of the religious groups' social media has been scrubbed or maybe never existed, but they do have like one account dedicated to a farm that they run as a business, but that's about it. But yeah, that's all I have. I wish I had a little more. I wish we would have gotten a response from Birdie to the negative comments, because I am really curious to know if she was saying what she said in truth, or if she was just saying it because that's what people wanted her to say. It really felt like people just wanted her to say that. But I have nothing to give you. So this is the end of my video. If you liked this video, please think about subscribing, maybe like, I don't know, new to this. But yeah, until next week, I guess.